Hello, citizens of the internet. Welcome back to my channel. You guys are watching Fajiro Talks. So in this video, I kind of wanted to do a practical show or a practical explanation of how to really get better at doing multiple choice questions. These are questions that seem like they're going to be the easy batch, you know, the easy types of questions that you get, but realistically, they're quite difficult. And that's because in medical school, when you get a multiple choice question where you've got option A, B, C, D, and E, regardless of what the options are going to be, 9 times out of 10, they're all going to be correct to a certain extent. So you are choosing the most appropriate correct response instead of the correct response. That's the trickiness about medical school multiple choice questions. So I kind of wanted to do like a practical, let me show you this one tip that has really saved my behind when it comes to doing multiple choice questions. And I'm going to be using Past Medicine. This is a UK-based question bank. I just wanted to do a couple of questions on passmed with you guys. So just talk you through some of the, of course, the questions, some of the options, and how I would go about doing these questions. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so as you can see, we're about to log into the medical student finals edition. And I think today we're gonna do some neurology. So let's go down and do some neurology and start the questions. Okay, sometimes I have to skip questions because I know that I haven't done the content for that yet. And if I get an inkling that it's not something that I'm likely to be tested in my year, then there's no point doing it. So we found the question I think I can do. A 75-year-old female presents with a sudden onset weakness of her left arm and leg. She also reports visual problems. On examination, you note left-sided face, arm, and leg weakness and a left homonymous hemianopia. There's no aphasia, no hemispatial neglect, no other deficits of high function. You suspect a stroke and you send her for an urgent CT. What is the best description of this stroke? So we've got left-sided partial anterior stroke, right-sided partial anterior stroke, a lacuna, or a left-sided total anterior circulation, or a right-sided total anterior circulation. Upon looking at this question, without even going to the options, how I recommend going through exam questions is going through exam questions excluding the options rather than being confident in picking a specific option and not looking at the rest. Whenever we read the question or read the stem of the question, we might feel so confident in a particular answer that we just click on that one and we're like, yeah, I'm 100% confident in that. You might even do the opposite where you're looking at all of them and you're like, I really don't know what any of these have in relation to the question. So in both of those scenarios, before you pick an answer, try and exclude every single option or try and form a reason why the options that you're not choosing are really not correct. So for this particular question, the best description of this stroke for me is a right-sided partial anterior circulation stroke. But in order for me to click that and say, I'm done, you know, move on to the next or submit my response, I'm going to exclude all the other options and basically tell myself or explain to myself why they are not correct. So for example, the left-sided partial anterior circulation syndrome, first of all, it's just the first word, left-sided. If she has left-sided symptoms, then I think she has a right-sided stroke. So that's why I don't agree with the first one. And that's also why I don't agree with the fourth option as well. Symptoms on her left side, she's going to have problems on her right side of her brain. So first one, so option 1 and option 4 are out of the game for me. Then it could either be a lacuna stroke or a right-sided and total anterior circulation syndrome. But lacuna stroke, I'm cancelling that out because she also has visual problems as well as motor and sensory deficits. So lacuna strokes are only for people who are only diagnosable in people who have just motor or just sensory deficits. So she has vision problems, therefore it's not just lacuna. That's why I have cancelled the third option in my books. And then I'm also cancelling the last option because she needs to have the 3 criteria to make it a total anterior circulation stroke. However, she only has 2 out of the 3 Bamford classification criteria. She only has vision changes and she only has motor or sensory deficits. She does not have any higher mental function abnormalities. So that's why I'm going with the last option. So I'm just going to click and see if I got that right. And lo and behold, 71% of people also got it right. But as you can see, like doing it in the concept of trying to figure out which one of the options it could not be before you get confident in choosing the option that it could be actually makes you more confident in your option in the first place. So we're going to move on to the next question. Well, I don't want to do the multiple choice ones. Right, so we're gonna do this. 30-year-old man, history of chronic alcohol abuse, attends the emergency department, unkempt, confused, keeps falling over. You note that he has issues with balance and coordination. He has nystagmus with bilateral lateral rectus palsy. His sensory examination identifies a polyneuropathy and his pulse is 90 beats per minute. He's not agitated, doesn't have any tremor. Which of the following treatments should be given to his patient most urgently? So we've got vitamin B12, chlorodiazepoxide, folate, benzodiazepine, or Pabrinex. Honestly, looking at this, I think I only know about 3 of these options. The other 2, I do not know. However, I do know that alcoholics tend to be given a vitamin B of some sort. I'm not sure if it's Pabrinex, but I'm going to try and cancel out the other options. So vitamin B12 is, you'd get vitamin B12 deficiency in macrocytic anemias, but I don't think this is related to alcoholics at all. I don't know what the second option is, I can't lie to you, but folate, I also don't think you'd get that deficient in alcoholics. A benzodiazepine, he doesn't have any tremor in examination. I don't think he would have a really high CWA score. But he does have issues with the balance and coordination. But benzodiazepines are more for people who are restless, who are getting really, who probably are scoring really high on their CWA scores. So I think that's my exclusion for benzodiazepines. Pabrinex, I feel like it's Pabrinex because I've come into contact with Pabrinex in the question before. And I think it is the vitamin B1. I could be wrong. It could be vitamin B1, but I do think alcoholics are deficient in that vitamin B1 and you have to replace it. Otherwise they get more neurological deficits. I don't know. Let's go for it. So even though I can't exclude some of the options because I actually am not confident in what they are, I'm going to go for Pabrinex because I've excluded folate and vitamin B12 and benzodiazepines because I just don't think that those are the most appropriate first line. So oh, that's good to know. So Pabrinex is the correct option. It's IV vitamin B/C vitamins. Okay. He's presented with the typical triad of Wernicke's encephalopathy. That's good to know because I actually did not clock that from the question. Patients should be urgently treated with Pabrinex to prevent them from developing a non-reversible condition called Korsakoff syndrome. Okay, so I think I have done a question about this before, but it was such a long time ago that I actually forgot in general. So that's why I was aware that you do give Pabrinex. Like I was saying before, it's also really important to get into a process of let me exclude the other options before I click one that I'm really confident in. So anyway, so now we've learned from this that you do give vitamin B/C, which is called Pabrinex, to alcoholics or people who were alcoholics so that they do not develop permanent neurological symptoms or Korsakoff syndrome. A 52-year-old man with a history of epilepsy is reviewed. Since having his medication changed, he's experienced a numbness of his hands and his feet. On examination, he has reduced sensation in a glove and stocking distribution, just basically your palms and your legs, I think, below the ankles. With a reduced ankle reflex, he's also noted to have lymphadenopathy in the cervical and inguinal region and some bleeding around the gums. Which one of the following indications is he most likely to have been taken? So we've got carbamazepine, phenytoin, topiramate, sodium valproate, and lamotrigine. Looking at this question, I'm not confident in any one of these specific options. However, we're going to try and rule out stuff again. Okay, so basically carbamazepine I don't think is given for anti-epileptics. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's given first line. I think it's given first line for another neurological syndrome that affects your face. Phenytoin is an anti-epileptic, and so is sodium valproate. So those are 2 options that I'm more leaning towards. Topiramate, I know it's prophylactic for headaches. I don't think I've seen it used in epilepsy. And lamotrigine, I don't know who you are. I'm sorry. I should know. I feel like I have interacted with you at some point, but I just don't know right now who you are and why you're related to this question. So I'm gonna go with phenytoin. Let's see. So even though I actually did not know, I didn't know whether it would be phenytoin or sodium valproate. I think it was useful having excluded the other options. And of course, the reasons why I excluded them could be way off. Like, it could be way wrong. Like, I could have gotten the drug classes of any of the other medications completely wrong. But to my understanding, it makes me feel a little bit more confident in the one that I'm choosing. It makes it a better probability you having chosen the option that you chose, knowing that you've cancelled out the other options on the list as well. So anyway, I only wanted to do 3 questions to kind of show you guys a little bit of how I try and work with exam questions these days from a basis of exclusion rather than certainty. And I think knowing the difference and applying this to your exam questions, hopefully from now into the future, will really help you just level up a little bit in terms of exams. And I know I'm not an expert. Please take this with huge buckets of salt, because it might not work for you, okay? But I know that it has definitely improved the way I do exams, and so I definitely want to share that with you guys. And if you have any more tips like this for a sister like me, or for brothers and sisters in the comments, then definitely leave it down below, and we will love to hear what is working for you guys when it comes to exam questions as well. But without further ado, that's really all I have time for in this video. All the best in all your exams coming up, and that's all from me. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys in my very next video. Bye. Always